Hudson Valley Bookkeeping, and in this video I'm going to go over what do you need to do if you want to hire someone for your private mental health practice. All right, let's get started. Okay, everyone, we're going to talk about today is what are you going to do? What are the steps you should do if you hire someone? There are a lot of steps before you can pull the trigger and start having someone work for you. So I'm going to talk about that. A lot of people don't know this, and then they're kind of shocked. You need to go on the IRS website. There's some good stuff on here. But the first thing is, if you're a solopreneur and you've just been working with, just your social security number, at this point, you really do need to get an EIN, employer identification number. Okay, so you're going to register and get that through the federal government. You need to get that before you can think about calling a payroll company. Then you're going to go to your state and you need to register with them so that you're registered with the Unemployment and Department of Labor. These will be additional costs that you pay on top of the salary or wage you pay someone. So you're also, when your payroll company starts you up, you'll have this EIN, and then they are going to file federal returns. But from everything I looked up, now I'm not a lawyer, and it's been so many years since I started my company, but they'll just file the return, and then now you'll have started with the FUTA. It's called FUTA, and that's federal unemployment tax. Okay. I'll make this a download so you can keep this. So you're going to get your EIN if you don't have one. If you're already a corporation or an LLC, you should have a different tax ID. So getting the EIN is the first step if you are operating under your social security number. I mean, because think about it, you don't want people's W-2s to have your social security number on it. That's why you get the EIN, so that you're not handing out your social security number all the time. Okay. So you're going to register with your state. So I'm in New York State, and there's this whole thing about unemployment insurance, wage reporting, and withholding tax, right? So this is for one state. So every state is different. So you'll have to understand that. And then there's even more things to do if you're, let's say, in New York City. And this is why you really have to pay the money for a decent payroll company, because they will keep, and then also pay for the high level one. I've gone through this on my video on which QuickBooks to pick, but I really want you to just understand that payroll fines in general are so high that the $20 to $30 you might save a month, you're going to lose thousands when you screw this up. Okay. All right, so it talks about reporting new hires, different income tax withholding. It's really tricky if you're down in New York City. And then there's a lot more employment laws too. Just to understand, if you're in New York City, if you're in Los Angeles, if you're in certain areas of the country, employees have a lot of rights, and you have to be very careful that you do not infringe on those rights or break any laws. So, and these states will not care if you say you didn't know. You have to go research this and ask a lot of questions before you start. Okay. So that's New York State. So you would just go to your state's website and read anything they have on a new employer. I was also on the IRS, and it was like new employer guide. Okay. Employer's tax guide. So this talks about, everything you need to understand. Okay. There's a lot of stuff in here. So what I'm giving you is an overview, and then it's on you to go and really research this. Okay, so once you got your EIN, and then you registered with the state, this takes weeks. So you have to be ultra prepared. You don't want to be too prepared, because you don't want to be filing and paying for a payroll company to file 0 returns. That stinks too. But as soon as you start thinking and you're ready to place an ad and you think you're going to pull the trigger and hire someone, you need to get this stuff going, because it does not happen in 1 minute. And everything with states and governments, that takes forever. So, and like New York State with the registering, it's a pain and no one answers the phone. So just be ready for a little when you're, in this, I call this the admin phase, especially of starting a new business. These are just the lumps you take. Okay, workman's comp. What is workman's comp? It is insurance. So if your employee falls or is injured while working for you, they will be covered. So, and then we also have disability insurance. So in New York State, I can really only speak for New York State because that's where I'm located. We are required to have both workman's comp or and disability. If in New York State you're found to have had a lapse in coverage or have a period of non-coverage before you got it, it's a $5,000 fine per. So it's a $10,000, and they really make you pay it. So, and they really don't care that you didn't know. They love to get $10,000 out of you. That's why I'm making this video so that you understand like the repercussions from this are huge. Okay, the next thing, don't hire anyone this is my personal opinion. I am not your attorney, but I would never operate a business without this. It's called, and the acronym, if you were talking, it's called EPLI. Honestly, I learned so much of this because when I first started, I worked at a lot of insurance brokerages, and I used to listen in on all of these poor things that happened to these employers because they didn't know. And no one is really offering to like take time out of their day to tell you all the things you should know about running your business, right? Except for this video. So EPLI, Employment Practices Liability Insurance. This rate will be based, all of these insurances will be based on your revenue and how much you're paying, how much you have in wages. So it goes up as your practice gets bigger, or or if you're just steady and it's one person and it'll be steady. But it's really based on, it's kind of like auto insurance or things like what's the price of your car, right? Like these different things affect the rate. And so I pulled this from Google, what it covers. And you're just, there's a lot of risks. You can't really grow a business, or like I can't run my business without my employees, but there is a risk of having them. So the risk reward needs to be enough. If you're just looking for a little bit of, I don't know, work on the internet and a little marketing, I would personally recommend using Upwork or Fiverr or something and staying out of this game. But if you need a person to come and be a receptionist and do filing for you, and you want that person to also sit and be your biller, and you really are growing, you're going to have to hire employees, right? So there's kind of like you got to figure out when it is the time. So like from my time, I was a solo bookkeeper from, I don't know, 2005 to 2016. And it was only me. And then I decided to start hiring people because I couldn't handle the amount of bookkeeping that I was just turning down work every day because there was no more that I could handle. So I finally, decided to hire. So it's usually in a point of growth where it's worth the risk. Okay. But then you really need this policy. So it's called EPLI, and it covers these sort of things. If someone says you terminated them and you didn't have the right, discrimination, harassment, retaliation, all of these things. So you just need to have this insurance because that way, like if you do have an incident, you will notify your insurance company. They provide legal for you. You have to go over the terms of the policy you buy. Okay. So you're going to do all of these things. You're going to register with, you're going to get an EIN. You're going to have to pay FUTA. You're going to register with your state. You're going to get your workers' comp. Sometimes they call it something else. Like in Washington State, where I'm from, they call it L&I. And that's like labor and industries. So my family will always be talking about someone out on L&I. That is the same as workers' comp. So depending on where you come from and what part of the country, it could be called something else. So just, look into that. Disability, get your employment practices liability. So now you've got all of that, right? What do you do next? Then you call a payroll company. Okay, and I should put in here some payroll companies to think about. So I personally like QuickBooks Online Payroll. They were really good during the pandemic when everybody else, like everybody at ADP got fired, and then there was no one at ADP, and that was a disaster. The pandemic really messed a lot of things up. ADP's fine now. I'm not saying anything bad about ADP. Paychecks, ADP. And there's Gusto. It's a little lower level. And I think there's one called Swift Checks. Me personally, I like QuickBooks Online Payroll. I seem to get pretty darn good service with them. They have 3 different levels. I believe you should go with the highest level. It's called Elite. The Paychecks and ADP are in the same price range as the QuickBooks Online Payroll Elite. These are all going to cost you $150 to $200 a month, but they guarantee their tax, and they are people there to help you, and they know what they're doing. The other ones, I think you get what you pay for. And so if I were to pick one, I would go with these. I'm not saying anything bad about these, but there's a lot more do it yourself. And I think for a novice who hasn't run many businesses and doesn't understand, and honestly, I refuse to do anything with payroll anymore. There are so many changes every day and new laws. That's why these big companies, they keep up with it. You can't. Something's gonna go wrong and you're gonna get like a $5,000 fine. Stick with the big companies. I'm not familiar enough with them to say that I could personally recommend them. And this one I like QuickBooks Online Payroll mostly because it posts inside your QuickBooks. And then the biggest bookkeeping error I see whenever I fix books is people don't know how to post payroll correctly inside their accounting software. And if you use QuickBooks Online Payroll, you don't have to post it. It self-posts within the program. So that's my biggest reason. And they have great hours to call. Okay, so now you have gotten all your insurance, you're registered with the state, you've got your EIN. Now you have to have your new employee fill out a bunch of forms. So these will be the forms. In QuickBooks Online Payroll, you send them a link to Workforce, and then they fill out most of the forms online. I still like to get paper copies for your files because you have to hold these employment files, I think, for 8 years. I mean, I hold mine forever. I never get rid of them. I'm always worried about a Department of Labor audit. Oh, okay. And let me just think. It's like a wage acknowledgement form. KN. Can't spell. This is really important. Really, really important. We do that in New York State. So I'm thinking you should do it everywhere. So you're going to get your employee, the person you hired, to fill out these things: federal withholding form, an I-9, a state withholding form. A lot of times you do have to tell the state. So like with the higher level payrolls programs, they will tell the state. So it was right here: reporting of new or rehired employees. Because here's the other thing, guys, you might find out that your employee has a garnished wage, and then you're going to have to pay the state for anything, like if they have a lawsuit against them or child support. There's things like that. So you have federal withholding, federal I-9, state withholding. You may be required to tell your state that you have hired someone. Wage acknowledgement form. Okay, what are some other things I personally believe in? I personally believe in a background check and a credit check. Okay, so why? Because I think, this is me personally, but we do this in my company. Everybody that is going to come work for Hudson Valley Bookkeeping, they go through a background and credit check. Why? Because you don't know really who you're hiring unless they're like a longtime family friend or something, and you really do know them. You don't know who you're hiring. And I have seen this with my clients who didn't do background checks. They didn't want to pay the money. They can be expensive. I think I pay $80. It depends on what I'm running. But it's not the same as like a real credit check. It doesn't show you their score. But you will know if you have someone that's in collections, right? So, and I also, you're looking to find out, is this going to be a person of character? So I believe that you should do that. We use a company called Trusted Employees, and I like it. I've been using them since 2016. And with this one, I log in, I pick the package I want to use, and then I send them the employee a link, and then they fill it out, and I get a report in a couple of days. It can can verify current employment. They have someone that calls their current employer and just says they're calling from a credit agency and something like that. So I mean, I really think that you should do that. That's just my personal opinion. And this is one I use. So when I signed up with Trusted Employees, someone had to come to our office and make sure we had certain things. Like, I think it was like, did we have a shredder? Did we have lock cabinets? There was like certain things to make sure we were really a true employer. Um, but if you think you're hiring people, it's pay as you go. So again, I think it's worth it. I found there was a couple people I was going to hire and they swore everything was great, and everybody swears everything is great. And then it's very interesting when you run one of these. So that's my advice as employer to employer. Okay. So once you have all of this, you've got your insurance, you've got you set up with the state, you'll have to create like an online account. You will also I just forgot. The other thing you're going to do is create an EFTPS account. That I couldn't figure it out. I was like, there's another thing. This has to do with your so your federal payments. Like, you could log in if you were to manually pay your taxes, like the income tax, Social Security, and Medicare for the employee. You could actually make payments on this EFTPS account. But the other reason you want the EFTPS account is you can check to make sure payments are truly being made on your behalf from the payroll companies. But again, this is why I recommend going with the big companies. The reason is these are like publicly traded companies, right? If you go with a low level payroll company, I have seen, go ahead and Google it. I have seen all kinds of things where they stole all the employers' tax money and they didn't send it to the government. And it's just a disaster. I even heard about this at a bookkeeping conference I was at recently. So I knew I was forgetting something. So it's that EFTPS account. So you got to get all of this stuff set up before you can go on to the next, before you can actually hire someone. You can't hire someone, and then that's when you're going to get those fines for not having the unemployment and the workers' comp, right? And the disability. And then you don't hire anyone if you're not willing to pay for the EPLI. That's, again, Laurie Ellison's opinion, but I really think you would thank me one day. Okay, so I will make this like a PDF for you to download. And that's it.